All right, everybody. So now I just wanted to sit down with Jared and have more of a personal conversation, kind of dig in deeper to some of the techniques that he's using, some of the ways how did he get started in farming, kind of his whole story. So let's get into it. So Jared, how did you get started in farming? What got you interested in it? Why did this appeal to you?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different factors. I think the biggest one, though, was very much health related. My grandpa was diagnosed with cancer, and at the time I just became very interested in what causes cancer, why is it such a prevalent disease these days, why are so many people struggling with this, and just health issues in general. Yeah, at the time I was studying finance. Actually, I had no background in farming.
Yeah. We were both still in. We were going to San Diego State University.
Yeah, we were both in business school together, and yeah, I just got really interested in nutrition through that, like trying to figure out basically how I could heal my grandpa, and really kind of got more into the holistic look. Kind of really trying to figure out what is the cause of cancer, why does cancer manifest itself, and so yeah, through that process I actually decided to study nutrition at IIN, which is a holistic nutrition school. And while I was studying there, I started a home garden because I figured that's like a really good thing that I can do right now is start growing food for my family, like cleaner food. I obviously didn't want to use pesticides even from the very beginning. That was always my thing, was chemical-free produce grown as naturally as possible. And it was really through that I developed a love for farming. Like that little garden that I had at my parents' house, it was such a miraculous thing to see a seed literally grow into something that nourishes our body and is the foundation of our civilization itself. We need healthy food. So yeah, it just became a very powerful thing for me, and I felt very drawn to start producing a large amount of food, not just my market garden, not just the home garden. I started getting these crazy ideas like, wow, I should just plant a bunch of stuff and try to sell it.
Yeah. So then that was kind of the next little shifting point where, we talked earlier about starting the gardens in between the alleyways.
That's right. Yeah.
So then you kind of made that jump.
Right.
So started in a home garden, got a little bit of skills, figured out that you really liked it.
Right.
And then an opportunity opened up with a family member who had some extra land, and then just kind of went for it.
That's right.
How it happened.
Yeah, definitely. And you can kind of see that in the original alleyway too. The structure is very much more of like a home garden. The raised boxes like that. It's kind of more of like a home garden setup. And then you can kind of see how it developed by coming out to the production field here and kind of seeing the progress throughout the years with that.
Yeah, and this is one of the, besides wanting to show off what my amazing friend is doing on his farm, I wanted to show you guys our story and how he started and how we didn't know anything. We're basically yeah
it was
bad.
Pretty crazy actually looking back on it.
Yeah.
How little we knew, and yet still went for it.
Exactly.
So.
And that's the point I really want to drive home to you guys is that you can start growing your own food at any level. You don't have to all of a sudden have a quarter acre and farm that. Start in your backyard, start getting some skills, see if this is something that you actually really enjoy. Because many people who haven't farmed and try to make a living at farming, it's very easily, and I did this myself, I had a lot of idealized view of what farming was, how much work it was going to be, and the effort and everything that goes into it. So just starting in your backyard is such a great way to do it. And you guys have seen on my little market garden how I'm doing that in my backyard, and I think it's a good analogy to how Jared started in the alleyways where you're getting your techniques down, you're figuring out what crops work, what sell well, and then when you're ready, now you move out to the bigger field at a more professional level where you can actually try to make a living doing that. nice. So yeah, I hope that seeing where we started, where we are now, that you guys can just really be inspired and know that that you can do this too. So you kind of talked about this already a little bit, but when the farmer started about 8 years ago, this whole no-till, regenerative, these words weren't really tossed around that much. There weren't really any YouTubers. That Curtis Stone wasn't on YouTube. All these other people that have, really unlocked a lot of major aspects of small-scale farming weren't there.
Right.
So, how did you know to go the right direction, which is no-till, natural methods, natural systems?
Yeah.
What led you there?
Yeah, it was definitely like a step-by-step process. It wasn't like an overnight thing where I just figured it out. It was kind of trial and error, seeing what works while actually doing it, but also just a lot of early reading. I was very much influenced early on by Elliot Coleman and The New Organic Grower. And but yeah, like even his book, he talks about using BCS walking tractors. He wasn't no-till, at least not in that book. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think he still uses BCS.
Yeah, I know he's coming out with an update to the book.
Oh, is he?
So with like all the new modern market gardening techniques, it'll be interesting to see.
Okay.
Yeah, what he says in that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Elliot Coleman is,
The Godfather.
Yeah, everybody knows Elliot Coleman, so you gotta read his book. But then after that, I think I bounced around, started reading a lot more permaculture stuff. I read J.M. Fortier, and he kind of took Elliot Coleman's style and did a little bit more to it of his own. But really, I think the no-till process and all that came just through trying to figure out what's best for the soil and how I can increase the fertility of my soil year after year and have my beds get better and better instead of worse and worse and less fertile and less fertile. For me, it's always been about health from the beginning, like for human health, and so I think there's a direct link between soil health and human health, and you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely.
As humans, we're totally connected to that. We need flourishing, super rich soils that are full of beneficial microbes, and that's what good food comes from. And so I think the no-till approach really promotes that in the best way possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been studying more gut health recently, and there's been a lot more studies that have come out in the last even 5 years. And something I found fascinating recently, that a lot of the microbes that we ingest and become a part of our gut flora, that's all on the leaves of the plants. It's from the dirt, that a little bit of dirt that gets left on your carrot. All the surfaces of the plants, the roots, the actual fruit, every piece of it is covered with microbiology, and by consuming that, it becomes a part of us. So when we have a diverse ecosystem like Jared has here, and a diverse soil structure like Jared has, not only are your plants able to uptake all of those available minerals and nutrients that they need, that they get passed on to us, we're also getting inoculated with all of the biology that's living on it, because Jared's not killing any of it, because he's not spraying anything. I think that's I think it's a fantastic point that you made about that. And this is something that I think that we really realized early on, even without understanding the minutiae of soil biology. We knew if the soil is healthy, the food will be healthy, and therefore we will be healthy.
Absolutely.
And that's one of my favorite things about your farm, is that that's been the guiding light to the farm the whole time.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned Elliot Coleman. Who are some of your other influences? And I know you've been this entire time you've been studying other farmers and farms and different agriculture systems. Could you tell us kind of more of some other big influences on you?
Yeah, definitely. Elliot Coleman for sure. J.M. Fortier was a pretty big influence earlier on. A little bit of Curtis Stone, But I would say even more so some of the permaculture guys. Like I got really into Jeff Lawton, watching a lot of his videos, and then Bill Mollison, reading the actual permaculture handbook that he wrote. I think it's Toby Hemingway. He wrote Gaia's Garden.
Yes, I love that book.
Very good book. You learn a lot from that one. He was a big influence.
Shepherd.
Yeah, Mark Shepard, another permaculture guy. He's doing a lot of agroforestry and stuff. And also related with that is Michael Phillips. But he wrote The Holistic Orchard, and that's an amazing book too. He's an apple grower somewhere up north. I forget which state he's in, but he's doing amazing work up there. Definitely focused on using microbes to his advantage and promoting healthy microbial activity on the farm. And definitely just a holistic approach. He's not using like chemical sprays, and it's really just a more broader outlook on growing, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you make, that it's a holistic view of the farm or the system. So the holistic means looking at the entirety of the system. You're pulling back and looking at everything, not just kind of the more Western style of doing things, is to understand the minutia, each intricate working part. So like in Western medicine or Western science, we believe that if we understand each individual part, every little crank in the watch wheel, that we will understand how the entire watch works. But that's not actually accurate. If you never zoom back out and look at the whole system as a whole, how all of those individual parts work together, then even if you understand exactly how each individual component of that whole system works, you will never truly understand what's going on. If you try to influence that system, you're going to make mistakes because you don't actually understand it, because you're not having a holistic whole view. And that's why they use tillage and pesticides and all these things, because on the small scale they can go treat this little problem, eradicate that little problem. But if you zoomed out to see the larger scale, all that tillage, all those pesticides, it's killing all of that soil life, and now you don't have any topsoil. Now you're not really growing real food. So that's just an example of how why our approach is the holistic one, looking at the entire system. And that's why we do natural farming.
Yeah, absolutely. So another influence, definitely early on, was Mark, who was a mentor of mine. He started the La Mesa Farmers Market, and I think Poway, and I want to say Oceanside too. But prior to that, he had farmed for 30 years and really knew his stuff. He was always a organic-minded farmer. I think he was at the market every Friday, so I would go to the La Mesa market and literally go find him and just pick his brain. And I'm sure it was super annoying sometimes, but he was always super cool about it. And he really taught me a lot. He told me a lot of stuff, and a lot of the styles that I developed were partly from him too, just talking to him and seeing how he did it.
The irrigation system that we looked at earlier, that was Mark Ben Dixon is the one who showed.
Yeah, that's right? Straight from Mark. Yeah, he's the one who taught me that. Just a great all-around guy. He's just he was always super helpful with me. I think that's huge for someone starting out, is find somebody who has a little bit of experience and just pick their brain, or have them come help you in some way if it's possible. But that goes a long ways, talking with somebody who's already had a little bit of experience. It'd save you a lot of time and effort to do that.
Yeah. So that's a good recommendation. So you'd recommend if people are interested in farming, either having another farmer come out to help them, or maybe go volunteer in their farm.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you recommend people, if they're interested in doing this as a business, how would they kind of bridge the gap between being maybe a gardener to trying to make a living?
Yeah, definitely. I would try to take it piece by piece. I wouldn't go buy a big plot of land right away. I think kind of how you're doing it is great, kind of finding maybe someone's backyard that's willing to lease to you, or maybe some kind of family land that you have, and you just any kind of access to anything that you can just start something small and build from there, and just make it a step-by-step process, and just slowly grow it. Because if you try to take it on all at once, it's going to get overwhelming. There's a lot to figure out at first. So,
and that's a mistake that when I listen to other farmer stories, it's something that we all do. There's something about the personality of farmers that we feel like we can do it all, and so I think that we'd admit we made a few of those mistakes in the beginning too.
Oh yeah.
Doing certain different things, and never be discouraged by that or any other failures, if you want to call them that. They're just lessons that you learn from, and that's a great recommendation. So now that you've been farming for about 8 years, you've been out in this field doing no-till for about 6 or 7 years now. So now what are your thoughts now on no-till and all these natural methods that you're redoing? Is it real? Does it actually work? Are your crops delicious and pest free?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's I kind of describe it to a lot of my customers or people who come out here as these beds are like a fine wine. Like I've noticed every year they just keep getting better and better. The crops keep getting more and more robust and healthy, and with less pest issues. Like when I first started, I had a lot more pests. Stuff just wasn't growing as good. It wasn't as healthy looking. It was always good, but it wasn't where it's at now. Like now it's just like getting ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Like these beds, the soil's so rich. You stick your hands down in there, it's just it's hard to even describe how rich and humusy and beautiful it is.
Yeah. The way that your crops look and taste is a real testament to that fine wine idea, because I was here at the beginning and I've seen the whole progression of everything how it's changed over the years, and I can't believe how good. When I look at your kale and your chard, especially the greens, there's like this extra pigment or color in there that that aren't in mine. Mine look great too, but I don't know. There's something about your soil, and something to be said about the long-term building of soil and the diversity that you must have in that soil.
Yeah, for me, it's always been more of a long-term approach. I think for a lot of people, like in the modern time, or especially in America, people want like a quick turnaround thing, and I think a lot of times that's maybe why people get into using synthetic fertilizers. You get that quick upfront burst of growth. But if you're really looking to be in the farming game long term, you really got to do more methods that are going to be building the soil and not destroying it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to sum it all up, there's just an unbelievable amount of physical field evidence, plant tissue evidence, soil biology evidence, that for myself, I can say that this is the absolute best way to grow food for the health of the plant, for the health of humans, for the soil, for the whole system. To me, it is completely undeniable at this point.
Yeah.
And at larger scales, things change, and you kind of do need to use tractors once you're going up to hundreds of acres. Things change a little bit, but on this small scale, this is I don't see a better way of producing food more efficiently and just for the health of everyone. So the next thing that I'd like to ask you is, how are you selling all of your produce? I think that'll be really interesting to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. So basically it's all CSA for the most part. I think very early on I started the CSA, but really my CSA isn't a traditional CSA. The traditional CSAs were for farmers to generate money like during the winter or spring when there's not any crops around, and they would sell shares to customers and then pay those shares back in the summertime when the produce is ready. But usually it required like a big upfront lump sum of money that the customer would have to come up with at the beginning of the year. And so for me, I got away from that. It's much more flexible. I just go week to week with people, and they just pay me week to week. And it's not like a rigid structure where they have to get like a delivery every week for a certain amount of time. It's really just whenever they want produce, they let me know. Very much so a CSA in the sense that it's like a bag of mixed produce, but really not as far as the traditional structure of a CSA.
Yeah.
It's more flexible.
Yeah, I think that's that's a really good point, and I think I've always liked your CSA model because I think the more we go into the future with technology and all these things, people want more convenience, they want more flexibility.
Yeah.
They don't like to be locked into these rigid structures of things.
Right.
So I think that's another great way to do it. It's another great example of another way to do a vegetable box program.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really cool.
I think restaurants can be really good. I've sold a little bit with restaurants, but it's a little more hit or miss. But I think if you find the right chef, the right environment, it can be very good too. So I'm kind of still trying to get my feelers out for maybe some more restaurants. And then this year, I think expanding into the markets is the next step for us too.
Nice. So that's kind of the future for you.
Yeah.
What's kind of the next step for Jared's Real Food?
Yeah. Well, we got a big expansion underway right now. I was approached by a local dairy. They're actually the last dairy here in Lakeside. Family farm. They've been here for many, many years. And they've been slowly losing money and decided to basically not, they sold their cows and they're not doing dairy anymore. And they approached me to come out and start a farm there. And they're very much connected with local schools and doing educational programs and farm tours. And so what they want me to do is build a farm there, and then we're going to start doing educational tours with schools and just different groups, or even just individuals like parents who want to come out with their kids. They can see firsthand where food comes from, how it's grown, and just see a more natural approach to growing food, like close to home. It's just right where they live too. So.
Yeah, that's gonna be really exciting. I'm really excited to see what happens with all of that, and I guess moving into more a customer or people-facing farming business, where he's gonna have thousands of people a year coming through the farm, and it's really cool. I'm really excited. You're gonna have this educational piece to it as well to show a lot of young people where their food is coming from, and this is awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the main advantages to market gardening, that we can have a really direct and intimate relationship with our customers that these other big farms could never have. And it also gives us an opportunity to bring people onto the farm and show them how all these natural systems work so it can be understood. And just having these little beacons, I guess, of education and informing the public about real farming and real food. This is something that I see as the future for market gardening as it becomes more popular, and we have more, we've got dozens of market gardeners in every city. What I hope is that we're going to be ambassadors for the soil health movement, for regenerative farming movement. As small scale farmers, we're not going to feed the world on just a few acres for each farmer. But what I think is really valuable that we offer is this ability to be a beacon for education and showing that these models do work, and that these models even work on a larger scale as well.
Yeah, and enough people start doing it. There's enough people growing. Perhaps there is enough to feed the world this way. I think arguably there is.
Right.
There just needs to be more people doing it. And
I think I forgot the statistic, but in the 1940s or 50s or somewhere before that, it's like 50% of Americans grew food at their home. So it's very recently that we've lost our connection to agriculture and the soil. The green revolution was kind of the beginning of the end. They saw it as this amazing thing where we had tractors and synthetic fertilizers and all these amazing new technologies. But that was kind of the collapse of our soil here, in America at least. So that's why we are now having a truly green revolution with all these regenerative techniques and farming and everything that's going on in this world. So it's really exciting, I think, for us to be a part of it and see all the changes that have been happening.
Yeah, and to see it firsthand,
right?
To be able to be a part of it is very powerful.
Yeah. So that's a good segue to talk about the future of farming, and how do you see kind of the future? We kind of touched on that a little bit. Is there some other things you want to add to what that would kind of look like?
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think we need to educate more people and get people back to the land. Whether it's growing food in your own yard or making a career out of it, but just I think being more connected to the land too is a huge part of it.
Yeah, like there's a huge connection to health and being in the country. Like there's a very famous study about children. They studied children who lived in the city, in buildings, apartments, not really going out in nature much. And they studied children who grew up in the country around farm animals and grass and forests. And the children that grew up in the countryside had way less allergies, way less immune system problems in general, less asthma across the board.
Yeah, across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they've done studies on the Amish.
Yeah.
In particular, I think, and it's the same. They have less rates of autoimmune disorders, lower rates of allergies, I think lower rates of cancer too, than the general population of America.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. And then
it's very interesting.
Yeah, and you combine this knowledge with what we now know about soil biology, and then human gut health and microbiome of the human body, and then that, to me, it kind of connects all the links together. The reason that we're getting so sick, the reason we have all these immune system problems and the inflammatory problems, is because the biome of the planet is basically off. Our soil is off, our skin is off, our gut is off, and because of that, now we're experiencing all these issues that like we've never seen in human history. There's just really has never been a more important time to transition to this type of agriculture.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I don't think it can continue on at the industrial level that it is right now. I mean, these large farms, they're run off of government subsidies, so they're not even independent farmers. They're completely reliant on the government. They're just farming corn and soy for the most part. It's a little silly, really. I mean, if we really want to get back to reality here and have strong, healthy minds and healthy bodies, we got to focus on soil health. And I don't see any other way of doing it besides a more small-scale, holistic approach like this. And a matter of necessity, if we really want to turn around all these diseases that we mentioned, if we really want to heal ourselves and the planet too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a necessary change.
Yeah.
So.
And we're and that's the pendulum is swinging back because this we went too far in the other direction, and now it's coming back, and we got to come back to more balance, and just come back to nature, and we follow the rules of nature. Things that work out pretty well.
Yeah.
As we can see in Jared's farm.
Yeah, we try to make friends and allies with nature rather than battling it and trying to fight it.
So just one last question here, just to try to give other people encouragement and strength. What was it? Farming's not easy at all. It takes a lot of time. You've made incredible sacrifices in your life to be able to do this, to be able to care for others and bring health to other people, and it's an amazing thing. And I just want to ask you, like, what is it? What was it within you, or what is driving you to be a farmer? And why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I guess ultimately it was that health connection and realizing the truth that we can't have healthy minds and healthy bodies without healthy soil. And once I realized that, I realized the importance of it and what our country and perhaps world is lacking is truly nutritious and foundational food. I mean, that's a huge part of health. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. There's more factors that go into it. But, you know, having good food is definitely a foundational point.
Civilization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, our civilization itself rests on it. So for me, it's just the truth of that, I think, is what really pushed me to try to make that change. And I think too, just being more young and a little more idealistic and wanting to be a beneficial influence on the world, or just try to do something positive,
Right.
with my time. And I think that was a lot of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think those are things that, when that's your focus in life, I think that, you know, it's just such a much richer way to live life and to interact with other human beings. And I love a lot of those things about farming myself too. So, you know, when we have those things motivating us, it's very powerful. And, you know, that's why we work so hard, and that's why we're doing this. And, you know, because we believe food is medicine. And so that's why we're here showing you guys all this. And we really hope that this has been a great learning experience for you guys. If you have any questions about Jared's farm, you could ask them in the comment section of the video, and either I or Jared will be happy to answer the questions. If you're in San Diego and someone wants to buy a vegetable box, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so all my information is on my website at jaredsrealfood.com. My number and email is on there. And basically what I do is I send out an email to all my customers every week, and it's just a list of the produce that I'm going to harvest that week. And whenever anyone's interested, they just reply to that email. So you just got to get in touch with me, and I can add you to my mailing list and start harvesting some good produce for you.
Oh, that sounds really great. Yeah, if you guys are in San Diego, there's no other farmer I'd recommend that you get your food from. I've seen a lot of different food grown in San Diego. There's nobody growing better food than Jared is. So definitely get in touch with him. You gotta try his produce. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Jared, for letting me come out and showing us what you do and your love for farming. And I know it was really inspiring for me, and I hope it was for everybody out there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you coming out. Like you mentioned, you were a very foundational part of this farm. So for me, when you asked to come out here, it was just felt natural and like a great thing to do. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
So I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah.